Yeah, I want to tell you a little bit about ES6. I mean, Axel has given a nice introduction. He has shown you that there's just lots of stuff. And actually that lots of stuff brought me to the conclusion I want to, grab that stuff and use it. And that's what led to ES6 Katas. And I want to tell you a little bit the story, and then we're going to use it a little bit. And then I need your input because we need to solve some problems. So, and that's actually the core thing. Some guy tweeted, it's amazingly good to learn. And that's exactly what this tool is for. ES6 Katas is for learning ES6. So if you've not been doing it yet and you're like hesitant to install something or you just don't have the time, try that. As Axel was saying, June 2015 was released, the specification, which is pretty cool. So I'm just, because we were talking about that before, just want to quickly explain to you what that logo is. We're just a small group of people from Munich. They're the mountains. And about the heart, I will tell you in a second what that means. And we actually tried to not only look into Munich, but worldwide. And we're those people who know Yuxibu a little bit, and we're very into test-driven development, and that's actually what this cycle is supposed to mean. And all that basically leads us to our company name, Yuxibu. So since I'm quite fun and I do like lots of testing, I have written the introduction, of course, in a test. So now I need my laser beam here. Sorry, just a second. Try to figure it out what it is. I guess you all know. That's ES6, by the way. You see what that is doing? Who knows what it is? Destructuring, yeah, exactly. What is the result going to be? Okay, so is this test going to be green? Or are those 3 tests? It's pretty ugly to write 3 tests in one it, right? But I did that. But it is going to be green because I really wrote this in a test-driven style. So that's just, my name and where you can find me, but this one is probably more fun. I just assign it to me, and I say me runs. Stuff like, we'll see what this is in a second. Yuxibu, ES6 Katas, TD bin, I will tell you a little bit what it is. But do you see this comma there? And do you see those 3 dots there? Who knows what that is for? Actually, I just put it in there so I could use another ES6 feature than in the slide before. So that comma is basically taking out Yuxibu. Well, first we're splitting this on a comma, right? Then this comma is saying like, ignore the first one, but take all the rest. And all the rest goes into runs. And then runs is basically an array of the other 3 things in there. So that's just introducing myself by some tests. I said I want to say a little bit about the heart. So heart basically is, when we founded the company, we found each other through open source. So we always want to give back. And ES6 Katas is one thing to give back. Another one, which is essential and will be needed for using ES6 Katas, is TDD bin, which is basically a tool that actually came up for an event that I want to mention in a second too, where we needed a test-driven development environment just with no setup. And you guess what it is? On the left, we have a test, and on the right, we're going to see that the tests either pass or fail. So it's basically just in the browser test-driven development tool where you can just go there, have nothing to set up, nothing to install, and just play with test-driven development with Mocha, which it currently supported. And if you just have a small thing, you say, like, I want to try test-driven development, go for it and try it. I actually know a guy, he told me that he's using it because his project, where he is, there's 10 people, nobody uses test-driven development, but he does. And he says, I'm developing my code in here, then I paste the production code into the repository, but this way I can work test-driven development style, and I don't care. I mean, the others, they don't want to install those tools, so I say, well, you know, I do my style, they do their style. So it's basically a tool for ready-to-use test-driven development, and it's just for practicing. Just go to tddbin.com if you like to. And actually, tddbin was created because we're running an event, the JavaScript Code Retreat. I've seen some people who had been at one. Wow, so many, that is awesome. Cool. So who does not know what a code retreat is? Okay, a code retreat is basically an entire day, a Saturday normally, where you go and do the stuff that you basically don't get to do during the week. It's those things that when you go, you know, after work, you have shipped the thing, and you're happy that you shipped, but you sit there with a beer with your colleagues and say, oh, you know, we shipped that thing, but I could have done better here, I could have improved there, I actually could have written a test here. And that's what you do at a code retreat. You do those things where you cut corners in your daily work. So the code retreat takes place every 3 months, and it's all about test-driven development, pairing, and clean code. So the next one is actually on the 5th of September, if somebody wants to join. But ECMAScript 6 for real. For me, it became real, ECMAScript 6, when I heard a podcast, and you know, there's this really good podcast with Eric Arvidsson, who actually has quite a footprint in the Google implementation of the ES6 transpiler tracer, whatever, you know, tracer, I just say. And for me, it was this itch I always had, like, you know, there's this new technology, I want to use it, and but then there was a specification, and I thought, okay, specification sounds like really cool, and actually they're obviously going to agree at some point. And Tracer is one tool that implemented ES6 quite from very early on. They had basically as their testing platform to try out those to enable others also to try out new features. So in this podcast, there was lots of interesting details about ES6, but feature-wise, there was nothing really new. But I still got hooked, and actually there were two things that got me hooked. It was this guy, Eric Evertson, he said on the podcast, he said, I'm using ES6 for 4 years now, and when I have to go back to ES5, it's like I have to unlearn stuff. I was like, 4 years? And then the spec was almost there, so it was close to being released. I mean, we are now close after the release. And that was actually in September 2014. So from nowadays, it's a long time in tech ago, right? And if you look at this repository, the initial directory, the initial commit was in 2011 by, I think it was Eric Arvidsson. But I don't know. But he was committing lots of stuff. So that was to Tracer. And you can imagine, I heard that podcast in 2014. I looked at the repository. It was 2011, the first commit. Man, was I behind. 3 years. I said, like, no, this cannot happen. So I took on and did some stuff. And, it just was the way to go. But why? I mean, until then, I was always looking like, yeah, ES6 is cool, but there's also, you know, other transpiler languages like CoffeeScript or LifeScript and that you can try out. But why ES6 at all? For me, there were two main reasons. One is really this up there. Import the module system, basically. And I have been fighting with Require.js for years and actually tried to keep out of it. And I have a colleague who is really, really in it, and he knows all the features. He has committed bug fixes and whatever. I said, no, this is a missing feature in JavaScript. I don't want to, you know, I wait until it comes. And finally, it's there. And the other thing is arrow functions. And arrow functions, I think, is like really awesome. I don't need to go into detail about that, I think. And, well, I do a little bit. We all know this, right? Self this? Yeah, Been writing it for years. Some write underscore self, or underscore this, or that. Then with ES5, I think we got a little bit better. We bound the thing to it. But hey, imagine there's lots of code in there. How ugly will this be? And you will not find the bind, actually. And then we actually got a little bit better and assigned name outside and use it in there. And we're like, yeah, cool, the scope bubbles, right? But breaks object orientation, basically. So finally, there is our arrow function, which makes this work. And I think it's a big relief. Since I'm using that, I'm so happy to not worry about self anymore. I have to look at my code if there's any self anymore. I think not. And I think those two reasons are just way enough, but there's lots more, as we have seen just before. But what actually got me started regarding ES6 Katas is who's reading articles about ES6? And so articles, or the specification even. Yeah, I sometimes read it, but this is I think it's not even half of the index, you know, this specification. And then there are articles that you read, and that was actually my problem. I actually come from a world, my first job was completely specification driven in the payment industry, and we were like, okay, everything is in the specification, that's what you implement. So I always kind of read specifications, but I actually switched to blog posts. And there are some blog posts, like maybe you know this one, and it's actually a little bit longer than you thought, but that's half of it. So, and how much of it did I read? Maybe this? Maybe others get further sorry. Maybe others get a little bit further and read, you know, the second column. But I'm always that type of guy where I start reading it and it's this awesome new feature and I say, okay, now I have to try it out. And then actually comes my TDD cycle back and it says, okay, if you want to try it out, just, you know, do it the testing style. And I'm so very motivated from those small steps and doing that in tests because there's actually the thing called baby steps, which you do in TDD, which is where you go always really small steps, and there are really scientific studies that say that satisfaction derived from a sub-goal can build intrinsic interest. So my interest actually got bigger the more I was really using and using it right, which was then getting the proof through a test. And that was actually building up at least the fun for me. And that's how ES6 Katas came along. I thought, if I do that, write a test, make it fail first, and then try out how does this ES6 feature work, why not provide it to everybody? I mean, I learned it, I used that tool once, and it's code that is written, so why throw it away? That's the only idea behind ES6 Katas, and that's how it came along. So I would say let's go and dive into imports. Not this kind of import, but this kind of import. And we need to do that live coding. So where's my browser? Here. So this is basically, okay, the ES6 Kata page is like this. You click a Kata, and what it does, it basically opens it in TDD bin. Now you get the loop, why I showed you all those tools. And what I try basically here is to write it test-driven. So a test suite here is like, use import at Munich JS this time. I cut this a little bit down so it's more concise. And here it then says the import statement, for example, and that's hopefully a learning you then take away, is only allowed on root level. So what will happen if I comment this out and let it run? It says, uh-oh, no. There's actually a transpile error. So in this case, it says, nope, you cannot use import inside a function. I say, okay, I don't. Next test. So actually, I don't want this test anymore. I remove it for now. Import members. A single member, use import from module. So now I need your help, how we can do that. Here's the assert that I expect. So now we need a solution. And we basically want to import equal, which, if we look at the test, has to be strictly equal to what comes from assert. So anyone wants to help me doing that one? Okay. And we want to do that using an import. And since imports have to be on the root level, we have to write it on the top. So,
destructuring equal. Yeah, you have to.
What do you mean destructuring equal?
You have to be object.
Object?
No, equal.
Equal?
Then closing bracket.
Yes?
From.
Yes?
Assert.
Like this?
Yes.
Yes? Let's see. We have one passing here, but this was the one I removed. Woohoo. A single member, use import da-da-da. A single member. This is our test. You're right. You get a beer. Okay. So, and now we can, so it builds up from the simplest features, hopefully to the more complex ones down to the bottom. So I suggest you to try those out from the top down. Separate multiple members with a comma. So deep equal from the assert module. And then I want to have not equal from the assert module. So I want to have multiple members. Somebody wants to help me how to do that?
Instead of equal, write deep equal, comma,
Like here? Like this?
without
Without the object?
no, without.
With it.
Keep it.
Okay, but that breaks the first.
No,
That breaks the first.
Deep equal, comma, unequal.
Ah, okay. Not equal.
And equal.
And equal. Whoa, we made 3 pass. Awesome, 2 beers for you. And then we can do alias import. So we can, what we currently have, let's fold this in because we don't want to see it now. Using member as alias as the member name. So this here is the member name. So now we want to have my equal, which shall equal assert.equal. Anybody got an idea?
It's column. It's column.
Columns equal. Or equal.
This what? Sorry.
Equal, column.
Shall I write a new import or use the old one?
The old one.
Hmm?
The old one.
The old one. Here?
Yeah.
Equal?
Columns.
Have to write it again or use this one?
But that will fail. The other one will fail.
Do a comma default as
So.
my
Okay.
Wait. I take you down. Comma?
comma default
Default?
as my assert.
But you are at the last test. You didn't want to do the last test. You're one of those students who always jumps ahead, right?
Oh.
But you're right, yes. So he actually is solving the last
Oh,
test.
yeah, sorry.
That's true.
Sorry.
So this one will solve the last test, but we have to scroll down and see, yes, it does. And maybe, I think this is really interesting because normally when you import the assert, you only write import assert from assert, which is then importing the entire module into the name assert. But what if this is the default export of the actual module? And that's exactly what this is doing, and the last test was trying to make you do. So we still have this problem here. You can use member as alias, so member, like this, as a member name, and now we want to have my equal as the same thing. as assert.equal? Anyone?
My equal as equal.
Yeah, you can. I'm trying to give the instructions in the test in the hint here. So if I, you can sometimes you can really copy paste this up here, but it's supposed to be called my equal as. Oh, right. Oh, exactly. Equal as my equal. Thank you very much. Whoa, too much beer. And now it's all green. Yeah, right. And that's basically what you can do. You can just, take those katas. I'm trying to release one every morning. So currently there are, as you can see down here, 61 katas. And they are about different topics. Generators, iterators, map, template strings, whatever, all kinds of APIs. And it's by far not done yet. So there's lots of room for new katas, so if you want to do one. And since we were talking a lot about iterators before, you guys want to do an iterator kata? There's one that actually, yes or no? Okay, let's do one. It's actually very simple. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger because we had to reduce my screen size. So now I remove this. You can read it if you want to, but not right now. A simple iterable without items inside, implementing the right protocol. What the heck? Okay, so here we have a basic iterator function, and now try to read the hint and try to implement exactly what it says. By doing that, you have to type the fix, but in the end, since it's your finger and brain muscle, it hopefully will work. The iterate function needs to comply to it iterator protocol, right? Copied from the MDN documentation. Must return an object. So type of iterator, when I call it, has to return an object. I help you start with this one. Okay? Yes. Yeah, thank you. One beer for me. So the next one. The object must have a key next. Who wants to tell me how to do that? Must have a key next.
Return braces next colon null.
Next colon null. Let's see. One test passing now, and
Which would be a function? Okay.
which must be a function, right? You didn't read until the end? No. I didn't either. Yeah, awesome. So actually there's a test missing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right.
Or you could also remove the colon and the function.
Yeah. Awesome. Good that we have Axel here. Yeah. You get a beer too. Okay, must have a key. So we have this one. Now we have this one. Calling next must return an object with, let's copy this one. And put it where? Where? Inside the next. So here. And return, right. Oh, return. Arrow function. So we got 3 tests green. We can close this one. Now we get to the iterable. Yes, there is iterator and iterable. If you do that kata 3 or 4 times, or if you create it yourself, you will know what they are. The iterator function needs to go, well, we had this one. The iterable must be an object. I gave you the iterable here, in the before each. We want to have it. So next one is green. It is an object now. Must have the iterator function, and now comes the interesting part, assigned to the key symbol iterator. Okay? How do we do that? Because that's funny. It has to have the key of the function has to be symbol iterator. Actually, you showed it. Let's see
You
if
could also assign, you could also say iterable in the next line, do a return afterwards. Go to the end of the line.
Here?
Return. Iterable open square bracket symbol dot iterator equals, and then you could do the iterator function. No, the iterator function. Iterator function.
Well, it currently says must have the iterator function.
Another one missing.
Go away. Iterator function.
Yeah. That should work, right?
And let's see. There's one missing on the right there. Yeah, cool. That's green. You can be drunk tonight. And using the iterable, it contains no values. Actually, this one is, we are 4 off. We are using this here, the 4 off loop. And we're trying to add it, but our iterator doesn't return anything because it returns done equals true right away. So, but we expect values to be an empty string. So we just do that here. This one works. Now, it has no length property. The iterable has no length property. Too bad. How do we do that? Has length property shall be false. Huh? No point? Someone? I just want to check if there is a length. Hmm?
You want to check that, and then you do in length in.
Yeah, length in iterable. Next one is green. Yes? And it can convert it to an array. Now we use this function here. Always use what is written in the comment.
The triple dots.
Yeah, you can also do the triple dots. But it's less explicit, I think. So this is green, and actually now the array, we just copy paste from here, has a length, and now we pass the last one, because now we have error length. The length has to be 0, that's it. So if you want to do that, you can hopefully always, pick up a new feature every time you do one of those katas. There is, as I said, there's many to do, many to go. And there's some really interesting one with the destructuring. I have to say, I've learned lots of stuff just by doing those katas. So if you want to do ES6 katas, feel free. That's it. And the learning you take away is basically what you get as the passing tests on the right side. And I'm trying to write them this way that they really tell a story. So they use the import function, blah, blah, blah. The import statement is only allowed on root level, import an entire module, and so on, and so on, and so on. So if you are done and all this stuff is green, you can probably just read through the learnings and say, like, okay, I picked that up. So that's all from me, and thank you very much. Yes, questions. Oh.
Just one question. Could you actually do deconstructing on an import? Like
You have to use this S. No, I tried it too. But
okay, so now if the default return of an import would be an object with multiple letters,
Yeah.
you could do.
Yeah, it's strange that you cannot use the destructuring in the imports.
Yeah.
You always have to use the S.
Okay. And why do they use this different kind of? Why do they use as and not the same format as a deconstructing?
I don't know. Ask Axel. Axel is the one who knows.
Yeah. Here you go.
Why are the imports?
Why do they have different syntax for the deconstructing and for the import?
Because they want to avoid the illusion that it is like because everything is very static. With the whole module structure is very static, which means you can analyze it without running it because there's no if then else, and you can't do an import. Say if something
You would have to strip features from destructuring just for importing. Yeah,
so they want to make it clear that this is not destructuring, that it's something completely different. That's
But
why
it
they
looks
did.
alike, so. Any other questions? Any other questions? Yes.
So Katas use Babel in the back.
Yes. So basically, TDD bin uses Babel. It's a browserified version that is loaded in the browser, and that's why all the stuff works in the browser. It's not going to the server, just for loading the page. So it's doing all this stuff in the browser, yeah. Yeah, yeah. I mean, you can go to GitHub and just clone it and run it locally, whatever you want, yeah. Any other questions? If not, there's enough time still tonight for doing some EU6. Thank you.